Hello everyone, welcome to my Ryu-ge Jurrac NAWCQ deck profile. We did not great, and there's a few reasons for that, and I'll get into them after the deck profile and maybe during it in some parts. But to make a long story short, I did not play the deck to the best of my abilities, and it's just a really bad format for this deck. And just 60 card decks in general, which, spoiler alert, it is 60 cards. We did bump it up to 60, helped a lot with consistency. But yeah, I'll just get into it. I do believe this is the better Ryu-ge Jurrac deck profile I made. I think this is the best version of the deck I've made, and I think this is what I'd recommend to people competitively moving forward, at least for this format. So to start off, we've got 3 Sosai Ryu-ge Mistva, 3 Warzone, 3 Rising, and 3 Melody. So this is the standard, 12 basic starters for the deck. These are all really good. You have to play all of them. Yeah, you want to see these in every hand. They're great. They're incredible. They're crazy. After that, we've got the 3 Onva. I did say I wanted to bump this up in the last deck profile, and I did, especially since now we're at 60. This card's great. You really want to see this in your opening hands. It makes playing through interaction, going first and especially going second, so much easier. It also floating an end is really powerful depending on what your opening hand was, since it can also going second, help you pop something. Just a fantastic card. Good to summon as well going second. It's such a versatile card. I think you do have to play 3, and I probably will play this at 3 going forward in any of my Ryu-ge lists because it's just so strong to draw. Then we've got 1 Terraforming and a card that is probably the most controversial card in my list. 3 Extra Foolish Burial. So if you don't know what this card does, you pay half your life to send a monster from your extra deck to the grave, and then you cannot set spell traps for the rest of the turn. That is a pretty big deal. Not being able to set Rivalry going first kind of sucks, or really sucks actually, and not being able to set Volcano going first kind of sucks. But I do think you have to play this card, just because it's a starter for the deck, because you can set Heraldry Arclight and that can search Mistva, that doesn't require your not your normal summon, that doesn't require any bricks. That is so hard to find. There is literally not another card that does that, at least not that I know of, which is invaluable, because this deck's already loaded with bricks. Having to play more of them is a tragedy. It's you just can't do it. You can't do it and have this deck still feel consistent. So I think you have to play this card. And going second, this card's way better than it is going first. You can basically use this as half an Ultimate Slayer if you're going second, which is really cool. There's a lot of really neat targets we're on. I would recommend at least trying this card in your Ryu-ge builds. I think this card is a lot better than people give it credit for, and you can still build a really solid board going first, even without being able to set cards. Maybe not in pure, but in this build, you can still end on 5 interruptions, no problem. After that, we've got our names, the 2 Hakva, the 2 Emva, the 1 Kaiba, and then each of our Ryu-ge realms. So, I mean, you gotta play all these. These are pretty standard. Is what it is. You're not really happy about having to play them, but you do gotta play them. I will say, I want to talk about Hakva. This card is way better than I ever give it credit for. Into matchups like Orchest, into matchups like Malice, into matchups like Lunalight even, this card's really good going second because you can go Hakva to start your turn, and then anytime they try to interact with you by banishing something out of their grave, which these decks do constantly, you're going to be able to trigger Hakva almost certainly, which, if you already have Wormwinds, means that he's just kind of a good extender, which rocks. That's so good, honestly. It allows you to do a lot more going second than you would be able to otherwise. It makes your matchups into those decks a lot easier if you see this card. So Hakba is kind of baller. Hakba in the right matchup is not even a brick. He's kind of my goat. Enva was fine all weekend. Did okay. And Kaiba you never want to see. Dino Domains open any of these realms you don't really want to see, and therefore you don't really want to see Kaiba, since you're just gonna have to shuffle them back so you can actually use your Stego. But these, you know, as interruptions, these are all good. I think you do probably have to play all of them. We're on one Ryu-ge End, one Ryu-ge Rivalry. These cards were pretty great. End came up a lot. Rivalry came up a lot. Both of these are really, really good. I will say, I did win 0 die rolls all week, or all weekend. So, and not even just in the main event, but I also did some a regional fight afterwards, and I won 0 die rolls in that either. So, not my luckiest weekend. So Rivalry came up less than it normally would, but you still got to play this card. It's great, and being able to flow into it off of End is really, really important as well. Not even just using this as an end board piece, which is also really important. I think both of these are mandatory. After that is our Jurac engine. We've got our Jurac starters in 3 Stego and 3 Fossil Dig. These cards are pretty good. These are definitely weaker starters, especially in this build of the deck, than the Ryu-ge starters, but they can be enough to get you there, especially going first. They're really good. Into Droll, these cards do everything you want them to, and let me tell you, I saw Droll all weekend. I also saw Lancia all weekend, and thank God these cards do not play into either of those. It's also nice that they don't play into Nibiru, they don't play into, like, Fua too badly. They give them, like, one draw. They play into pretty much every Molcharmy very well. Really love these cards. I do think the Jurac build is still the best way to play the deck. You just need to be able to beat those stupid lingering floodgates that are everywhere this format, and these cards do that. At least for right now. Unless Droll becomes less popular, I think the Jurac build is the way to go. And now for the cards you don't want to see. 2 Megalo, 1 Titano, and 1 Volcano. Volcano and Megalo aren't miserable draws. Like, they're not good, but they're not, like, the worst either. Volcano going first is, like, just an interruption, which is cool. Megalo can be an interruption if you open ways to pop it. Like, if I end on, like, a half board that's, like, Mistfun Extra plus Rivalry set, and then, like, a Megalo set, which did happen. It's pretty damn good. I'm a real fan of it. Titano sucks, though. If you ever see this card in your opener, it's like the worst brick in the deck, because it literally does not do anything. There's nothing this card can do that is ever good. I do want to talk about Titano, because here's another bonus for the versions that play Titano and not, like, the 5 babies. You can banish a Jurac from your grave to buff this by 1,000, which actually came up, like, multiple times. Buffing this guy by 1,000 can beat over, like, a Liger Dancer, which is really cool. So it gives you, like, 2 in-engine outs to beat Liger Dancer. I guess 3, because you have Doggeran as well. Spoilers. He's, like, a weirdly nice card to have. He's kind of my goat. He's kind of neat, except when I draw him. Then he's the worst. After that is the utility guys. We got 1 Misk and 1 Doggeran. I ran Doggeran for Lunalight. I wanted to have my searchable Kaiju for that matchup, so if they just ended on, like, 1 Liger Dancer, they have no way to really interact with the Mistfa combo outside of Silverhound, so if I have a way to force Silverhound, like, Doggeran just gets to sweep it up, or if I have, like, Anva at all, because Anva just doesn't let them negate my card, then it just goes crazy. And Misk is invaluable for this deck. If you have 2 ways to search Stego ever, or if you open, like, Stego plus Warzone or Stego plus Fossil Dig or something, you're always searching Misk, because it makes your combo just uninteractable by most hand traps, which is crazy. Also makes your combo a lot scarier when you go second. Misk, being able to summon a guy from deck also makes him not a brick, because the way he works is he summons your Megalo from deck, and then it gets destroyed in the end phase. So no matter what, you're getting an interruption out of it. So this guy is already a board wipe on your opponent's turn for free. He's really, really good. Misk. If this card was at 3, this deck would be way better. Just for that reason. Like, it's just a really solid extender. While also giving you, like, unbelievable protection. Next, we're going on to the non-engine. First is the stuff I ran to beat Droll and Lockbird and nothing else. 3 Salesman, 1 Called By, 1 Instant Fusion, and 1 Crossout Designator. So these were all ran to beat exactly Droll and Lockbird. You can tell how scared of it I was this event, and I think I was rightfully so because it was everywhere this weekend. You can go, which these aren't just good for beating Droll. Salesman is really good going second right now as well. I think Salesman was maybe the best non-engine in the entire deck. This card was incredible all weekend. Called By is just a good card. Instant Fusion is not bad. If you don't know, you can summon Millennium Eyes Restrict, which is kind of a walking Called By that can also equip stuff on field to negate its effects. So if you're trying to break a board, it's not bad either. Crossout was the only card that I think I was really greedy about playing because, spoilers, I'm not on Ash Blossom, which I really should have been on a copy of Ash if I wanted to play Crossout because it did come up where I got Ash and I was like, man, if I could cross out an Ash Blossom right now, I would probably be in a much better spot. So that sucks. But, is what it is. We learn from our mistakes. Definitely need to play an Ash with this. I'd probably cut there's a card later in the list that I think you could bring down to 2 that you would probably play for that Ash Blossom. But these were all really good. I would recommend still playing these if Droll is still, like, an issue. If Droll is no longer a problem in the format, I think you can totally switch up this non-engine for, like, hand traps. It's just, you gotta be able to beat Droll. If you can't beat Droll, it's really rough. But those cards give us the ability to have, like, 12 cards in our list that just play through Droll no problem, which is really nice. After that, we've got 1 Triple Tactics Talent and 3 Thrust. These were kind of a last-minute inclusion. I wasn't sure what non-engine to play in this slot, but I really liked these. Thrust felt really good. It allowed me to get to board breakers that I need to be able to beat something like a Detonator. It allowed me to see Engine more often. It allowed me to just see good cards more often. That's what Thrust is great at, and it was very good at doing that. Talents was just a get off of Thrust that I thought was really good, and it was. Talents is a good card. Crazy, I know. Thrust is also really nice because going first, you can use it to set Rivalry from deck, which is really strong. If you have Mistman in your extra deck, that's like 3 interruptions if you can put 2 other cards in your board, which is not hard to do. Just a banger card. This card, though, I would probably cut down to 2 to play the Ash Blossom in the main. For the Crossout Designator, because this is the only non-engine that I think is cuttable in this list for this format. This deck is really tight, even though it's 60 cards, which is crazy to say, but there's just so much you want to be able to fit in this format. After that is the mandatory hand trap lineup: 3 Molcharmy Perulia, 3 Molcharmy Fulos, and 3 Droll and Lockbird. You gotta play these cards. At least it feels like it. If you want to have a chance going second, unless you're specifically built to go second, I think you gotta play these cards. They're so important. Need this to stop decks like Mitsurugi and like these stupid combo piles that are bad going second, but just like sweep going first, or not even bad going second. Like a deck like White Forest is not bad when it goes second. It's just these decks that are so high powered, you need Droll for them. And the same thing with the Molcharmies. These decks are so high powered that you need the Molcharmies for them. It's so rough. And I think this is where I can kind of get into one of the reasons this deck is really not good for this. It wasn't good at all for the NAWCQ, and that is this format is miserable for Ryu-ge. Droll is one of the best cards right now, which is terrible for Ryu-ge because that card just stomps you, at least stomps your main engine. The Molcharmies are actually quite good for Ryu-ge that they're seeing play because Ryu-ge plays pretty well into both of the Molcharmies. It gives them 2 draws off Fua, and it gives them 1 draw off... No, it gives them 0 draws off Perulia, unless you want to do the full Jurac combo, then you give them 1 draw, but you're ending on like an 8 interruption board. The other issue is that, like, the decks that are seeing play are just really hard matchups for Ryu-ge. Their boards are so hard to crack, and this deck cannot consistently see the cards that allow you to crack those boards consistently. Like, you're not engineering through a Malice end board unless they play like ass. You're not engineering through a Raiziel Mitsurugi end board, even if they play like ass. You're not engineering through an Orcust Mitsurugi end board, even if they play like ass. Like, there's just too many interruptions on those end boards to do it. You have to open these cards, and in 60 or even 50 cards, it's really difficult to do that. It's just hard to play 60 decks right now in general because of this. But I do think that if we ever get into a format where these cards are not necessary to play at these amounts, this deck gets so much better. I think this deck becomes at least regionally competitive, if not maybe even better. Because I will say, one of the biggest issues with Ryu-ge is bricking, and I did not brick at all this weekend. It was great. The deck felt really consistent. I would open bricks, of course, like you will in this deck, but I never opened like 4 bricks and then nothing to do. I almost always, if I did brick, it was on like 4 non-engine or something, which never actually happened in tourney. It just happened in practice matches. So this deck felt really good consistency-wise. It's just you gotta be able to see these cards, and this deck just cannot do that consistently, which means going second a lot of the time you just are flailing to try and make something happen. It's really unfortunate. After that is our extra deck. We've got the mandatory Varudros. We've got the Reprodocus for our 1-card Warzone combo. And then we've got a card I kind of discovered through testing, which is Grenosaurus Giga Cannon. This card's really cool in that it gives you a way to win in time that you would not otherwise have. So if you open like Stego in any card to pop, you can make Grenosaurus Giga Cannon with your board nuke live. By going like Volcano Papastero, summon another Stego from deck, and then make this. And then when this is destroyed by your... if this is destroyed by your... I'm actually now realizing this doesn't work the way I wanted it to, but it's still not terrible. You can't do it with Meteor, because unless your opponent somehow keeps something on board, like if they have a detonator, you can do it. Because you have to pop a card on the field to burn for 1,000. But if you like pop this with Mistva, it works. So if you start with like 1-card Mistva combo, you can totally make this guy. So 1-card Mistva combo gets you to this guy. And if he's destroyed, he lets you target a card in the field, destroy it, and then burn your opponent for 1,000. So you can go like make your board on your opponent's turn, burn them for 1,000 with this guy, and then just win the game in time. So, which is nice. Like, it is nice to not just auto lose if your game goes to time, because that does happen. People got to read these cards, which takes time. So, expect that to be an issue. But it wasn't bad. It didn't actually ever come up, but in theory it could have, and I don't regret playing it. On that we have our Jurac guys. We've got 3 Astero and 3 Meteor, and yes, these all come up. You do regularly, maybe not 3 Astero every time, but you definitely go through 3 Meteor pretty regularly. Like, there were multiple matches I went through 3 Meteor in a game. If it ever goes into a grind game, you're probably going to be sending 3. You're probably going to be using 3 of these. But the fact that Megalo can just keep coming back every time you summon Meteor means that Astero is going to be going to grave a lot, so it's just nice to have 3. I think you do got to play 3/3 of both of these, because you are throwing nukes all over the place. You got to be able to do that. After that is our Millennium Eyes Restrict for our Instant Fusion, and then after that is our targets for our Extra Foolish Burial. 1 Aggregator, 1 Herald of the Arclight, 1 Natis, and 1 Lunalite Perfume Dancer. I am going to talk about this one. This card allows you to banish it from the grave to make all monsters your opponent controls lose attack equal to their original defense. And it's for this turn, not just ones they currently control. So any monsters they summon for the rest of that turn are going to have their attack lowered by their defense. This isn't good in every matchup. It's bad to like Malice, for example, but into like Lunalite for sure, which this interacts with Liger Dancer. So this will lower Liger Dancer down to like 500 attack, I think. But even into something like Ryzeal, you lower their Detonator down to 500. You lower like Duo Drive down to 500. You lower even Murakumo, lowering it down to 2400 means that you don't need Dino Domains to beat over it, which is huge. This card rocks. It never actually came up because honestly I didn't draw Extra Foolish Burial that much going second this weekend, unfortunately. But in theory, this card's really cool and I would keep it in the list. I think it rocks. Hypothetically as well, if we ever play the Tri-Brigade Link 5, you can send this off of that, which is really cool. Gives you something else to send besides Garuro, which might be a little better going second. And then our last card is one Typhon. It's a good card. I don't think it ever came up, but in theory it could have. It's a good card to just have in all your extra decks. After that is our side deck, which is 3 Ash Blossom. Again, one of these should have been in the main deck and replaced with a Thrust. I still stand by that. And then 2 Bystials. I just wanted to have more good cards going first, and I think the Bystials are just really good in this deck. They also just cover matchups that some of my other non-engine doesn't cover, which is nice. I liked having them. They came in a lot. A lot of these cards came in. Honestly, I think my side deck was really well built. All the cards came in at some point during the weekend, which was nice. After that is 3 Lancia and 3 Meowls. You gotta play these for Malice. There are other matchups they come up, but you gotta play them for Malice. They're really, really important for that matchup. It's just really good having like 6 more cards in your deck that just read no, Malice does not get to do much. Or if it does get to do much, they're paying a price for it and you're breaking that board. After that is some board breakers. We've got 1 Feather Duster and 3 Dark Ruler No More. I'm gonna be real, I think so Feather Duster was really good, but I think Dark Ruler could have been replaced with Ultimate Slayer, and then we swap out like the Typhon and the Giga Cannon for the Tri-Brigade Link 5 and Garura. I think switching those out for like the 3 Ultimate Slayer would have been nice. I think Slayer just does a little more than Dark Ruler does this format. But Dark Ruler in theory is not bad, and there are some matchups where having it is nice. But it probably should have been an Ultimate. It probably should have been 3 Ultimate Slayer. I'd probably replace that in the future. But overall, this deck felt really good, even though I think my play wasn't the best with it, so I'll get into that. This deck's really hard. I would not recommend this deck at all to new players. It's really complicated. There's so much micromanaging you have to do. While the combos aren't that crazy, the micromanaging you have to do on like the continuous spells and the names you have in rotation and whether those names can trigger their effects and how you're going to get Mistva onto the field and managing how many Onvas you have left and just managing how you're going to get other things in a rotation is so difficult. It is genuinely so much to keep track of in a match, and then you've still got to like play Yu-Gi-Oh! You know? Like, it is so many things you have to keep track of in a match. To play this deck optimally, it is insanely difficult, and it's so hard to play this deck in a tournament setting because it's just hard. It just wears on you. This deck exhausts you, man. As somebody who's brought this to several regionals and like now a nationals, this deck is one of the hardest decks I think I've ever played in terms of like just what you have to do as a player and how much brain power you got to put into it. Because you can't like memorize a combo and then just do that combo. I mean, there is a combo you can memorize, but like that's not where the difficulty of the deck comes in. It's everything else. So there were a lot of times I misplayed. I played as Malice round 3, and I'm gonna be real, I should have won that match, but I misplayed in a very dumb way, and it cost me the match. Yeah, it is what it is. Against Vanquish Soul, I probably could have 2-0'd them. It ended up being a 2-1 just because I didn't play as good as I could have game 2. This deck is especially difficult to play in a grind game because you got to manage that stuff over a period of time. That sucks. It's rough. The other thing that makes this deck really hard to play is that the decks of the format are really unfriendly to this deck. They all kind of have higher ceilings than this deck while being able to play more or equal amounts of non-engine, which gives this deck not really like a niche it fits into in the format. There's even a better going second deck than it right now, which is Gem Knight. If you saw that in a top 4 of Nationals, it was on a tear. But yeah, I just didn't have a deck I wanted to play for this event, and I was like, you know what? For all y'all, for all my Ryu-ge enjoyers, I will bring this deck. And I didn't think it would do super well just because I know this deck has too many issues to be like super competitive. But it kind of, while it didn't do well, I was impressed by how much those issues felt deal withable. Like, it didn't feel like I was ever blown out by Droll. It didn't feel like I was ever blown out by like Lancia. It didn't feel like I was ever blown out by bricking, right? The deck felt like it was a functional deck. It felt very competent. It felt competitive. It's just the fact that I got very unlucky all weekend and I didn't play the best I could have. But I think a better player than me could honestly take this deck to a regional finish very well. I think this deck could maybe even get a YCS top if played by a better player than me. I really wish a better player than me would pick up this deck and check it out because I really do believe in it. I think this deck is way better than it's given credit for, and I think it's going to be a lot better in Justice Hunters format because I think its matchup into the Justice Hunters decks is actually really good. I think even into Yummy, which puts up like the strongest board out of any of them, it's still pretty good. It doesn't have a lot of ways to interact with Mistva, which means that like your Ryu-ge stuff does really well into those matchups. Anyhow, I'm rambling, so I hope you all enjoyed this deck profile. This will probably be the last Ryu-ge deck profile I make for a while. I'm probably going to move on to other Pendulum decks I like, especially now that Nats season is over. I can kind of take it easy and play like goofy fun decks for a while. So you might see some like some of my favorite other Pendulum decks being messed around with. Maybe some non-Pendulum decks, we'll see. But anyway, see y'all later, and bye-bye.